the bootstrap command that I'm going to show you will both create a source repository of different kinds. Right now, I'm going to say it's a GitHub kind, and I'm going to put it in my own personal GitHub user, and I'm going to make it private. And in order to do that, it needs a personal access token, and I just gave it repo scope. That's all you really have to do. You can see it in the guide. But so I'm gonna go ahead and silently read this. Take note, demo gods. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm just I made a bootstrap token. I could show you all how to do that, but I don't think you really need to learn how to do that. And then I also need to export it because I only did the read so that I could show you without exposing my
without showing you. Yeah.
without showing you. So, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this flux bootstrap command real quick. And I just mentioned what it does. There's a lot of other things you can pass to this. You can also specify specific components to add. I'm just going to do the out of the box defaults, which installs the, I didn't really bring a diagram with me. I could show it, but we did last week. Essentially, it's going to install the Flux components, which is a microservice style, or let's say a multi-service style tool. So it's going to install a customized controller, a Flux customized controller, a Flux Helm controller, Flux notification controller. And those are what we're really going to look at right now. So.
And for clarity, those controllers, that's the part. So Flux Bootstrap doesn't just install the controllers. What you can think of Flux Bootstrap of doing is at the root of GitOps for Kubernetes is that I need some automation, and those controllers are the automation that we're installing on the cluster. I'm going to do some stuff over in Git. And for those of you who maybe are a little bit newer to GitOps, in the beginning, I really focused on what was happening on Kubernetes. I focused on the automation. And it took me a little while to realize that a big part of what we do with GitOps is we do a whole bunch of magic on your behalf. We automate not only what's going on in the cluster, but we automate what's happening in Git. That's why you need the GitHub token. And then we establish the relationship between those two. And so it's really that whole bunch of things that's happening here. And so I'll let Scott continue. Those controllers are really that if you're thinking about GitOps is about declarative configuration, version controlled with software agents that are keeping things in alignment with what your desired state is. He just talked about the controllers that ensure that alignment. There's the other parts of GitOps as well.
Thanks, Cornelia. Yeah, exactly. That.
Hey, Scott, there's been a request. Can you make the fonts actually even more big? Increase it even
larger.
More? Yeah, larger.
Yes, I can.
You must have a high resolution screen there.
Is it like a wide?
Kind of,
yeah,
yes,
you got like a.
Yes, I do. Is that better?
Which did you change?
So
no.
I changed my browser. So I have a split screen here.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
gonna just show
the browser maybe a little bigger.
Yes, the browser a little bigger.
There
and
we go.
Here, I don't want to go
the terminal
uncrazy. Let's do that, and then I'll make the see if that helps. Okay.
Yeah, go like
that's a little bit.
I just wanted you to be able to see what I did, as opposed to being like 3 letters per line.
Yeah, per line. Yeah. Oh, they're saying perfect. So.
Oh, great.
Okay, cool.
All right. Thanks for letting me know. So yeah, this is what Cornelia just like followed up on what I said. I just mentioned that this is one of the diagrams that Stefan drew at some point, and it's used in the Flux documentation. I know we showed it last week, so I won't belabor this, but essentially, you've got your sources right now. Where I'm using GitHub for this demo. You've got a Flux source controller that really is watching that source. Sources can also be S3 compatible storage buckets. They can also be, you can use a Helm repository as a source, which I'll be showing you in this too, and so on.
Oh, so that's interesting. So you can actually have your manifests, let's say, stored in S3 in object storage, and the controller will watch that.
Yeah, correct. And the reason for so one of the GitOps principles is for I won't get into the details of it now because they're being hashed out
yeah
in the GitOps working group. But again, not related to Flux in any way specifically, but just that's vendor neutral across the board. But one of the principles is that you have your declaration of your desired state of your system, or whatever part of the subsystem that you're trying to GitOps, in immutable version control. And so, we probably say this almost every time, but GitOps is just a name that's stuck. It's almost, who said that? It's like a super ugly name in a way, but it's just such an earworm, and it really just stands in for immutable.
It's definitely an earworm, right? Like it catches your attention.
Yeah, immutably. It doesn't have to be version control system. It just has to be immutably versioned declarations of what you want your desired state should be of your system. So this source controller in Flux looks at that and watches for changes, and and the other controllers interact with the source that it inspects. So that's how that works. Helm controller, customized controller does. I don't want to get too deep into it at the moment, but you'll note in a moment that we use customized controller to apply plain YAML manifests. For this, just because I did this very recently with a Helm demo, I'm skipping over all of the other like cool things that you can do with customize, and I'm only focusing right now on its use of applying automatically applying plain YAML manifests to your cluster. Hope that helped a little bit. All right, so I'm back here, and so we just did the bootstrap. I don't know if you lost place, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do GitHub repo view web, right?
So actually, Scott, before you scroll up just a hair?
Sure.
And so I just want to point out that the kind of hand wavy description that I did, you'll notice if you look at all the things that Bootstrap did, it created repositories. So that was the Git part. It installed the stuff on Kubernetes, and then it established connections between them. So all of that stuff is reported for you through the Flux Bootstrap. Now, when you do the OpenShift install Flux, we also set up some of this stuff for you. So I don't think we're running the Flux Bootstrap command, but we might be. I don't remember. Mahmoud, our colleague Mahmoud, built the operator. But that's effectively what we're doing. So you can see kind of under the covers what's happening when you install the OpenShift operator for Flux.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, and also it's important to point out that the bootstrap is not only you're bootstrapping the cluster, but also your repository that you're going to be interacting with, right? So you have that so it's like kind of like an end-to-end bootstrap, not necessarily one or the other.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, and so you'll see in this right now you've just got like a really bare bones README, and you've got a file directory structure. Oops. I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. This is actually just like what I had set up before this. Whoops. Okay, so it did in fact do Bootstrap, but let me get into let me go somewhere where this didn't actually do anything locally yet, by the way. It only created because I told it to create GitHub, it only created that in the cloud and, on the GitHub service and inside of the cluster, and did the connection that Cornelia was talking about. So I actually am going to run this again because I just realized that I didn't pass. Well,
you missed
I missed the path. So here's something kind of fun. So let's actually go to it for a second and go to code GitHub Scott Rigby, and then I'll do make dir. What did I say it was? GGG demo.
It's either 2Gs or 3Gs. We'll see.
Yeah, GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. That's what I was going for. But
okay,
there you go.
So now I'll do GitHub repo view. Oops. Oh no, I can't do that. What am I talking about? So I need to I need to clone it. So let's clone this thing. Sorry, folks.
This is how we know it's real. You're fine.
Yeah, it's real. Yes, you're fine. Yeah.
I can just do. Jeez. All right. I'll do this. It's how we know it's real.
That's right. That's right.
All right, so now I'll go in here. Now I'll do a GitHub repo view website browse. Okay, so the default is to put it in a folder called Flux System, and that's it. I'm going to change that for you for fun. I just want to show you how disposable some of this stuff is.
You're going to go into the danger zone of.
I'm actually going to go into the full-on danger zone and just delete the repo, recreate the thing. You don't have to do that, but this will just be the easiest to show you. Oh, come on. There we go. Boom. Okay, done. All right, so now, or I could have probably done that at the same time. I probably could have pushed that because you can actually, your repo, you can bootstrap an existing repo. So I could do that next, but just to keep on topic here, I'm going to put that extra line in and just make sure to specify the path. It's not going to show you too much magic here. It's really just oh no. Am I dying here? Maybe, you know what? Maybe, I'm so sorry. Maybe I actually don't know the easy bootstrap revise. I would almost like just delete the kind cluster and do it again.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think you just
delete the
kind. But that's what kind's for, right? And
Yeah,
maybe
blow it away.
Well, while we're waiting for that, there's actually a couple questions in the chat, so maybe we can address it. So, with Shari, actually, he's asking, when is Flux 2 operator? When will that be GA?
Yes, so I can answer that real fast. I'm going to go to just the FluxCD.io website, go to Learn More, and then I'm going to go to, let's see, the roadmap is a good place to get an idea of what's happening. But we had made this link very recently to give a timetable, and I hope it helps people. Some people said it was very helpful. Other people said it was more confusing for them, and I don't know which is right. So let me take your temperature. Here's a table with dates. Some of the dates are TBD because we can't know, but it is actively being worked on, and so it's imminent. The dates are what happened for each part of the Flux project on that date. So October of last year, Flux went into maintenance mode. There's some details about that. I won't waste the rest of our demo time with that. Flux 2 CLI went into development mode. We were at that point working to finish parity with Flux 1. And people were encouraged at that point to test Flux 2 pre-releases in non-production, which many people did. The GitOps Toolkit by that date was all alpha. So this is just like a slightly more complicated answer, because with Flux 1, it was really just, we didn't have it separate. We didn't have versioning separated because the system wasn't as multifaceted as it is now. Now it's a multi-service architecture. So the Flux 2 CLI uses Semver, and the Toolkit APIs follow Kubernetes API versioning pattern. And we're even a little bit more, basically for us, when we go beta, it's production ready for the APIs.
So Scott, Flux
Yes.
2, GitOps Toolkit, can you kind of explain those two things?
Yes. So Flux 1, these are two columns because it just had to be that way. Flux 1 is really just one column. It's easier to describe, or at least it's less faceted to describe. For Flux 2, we've got Flux 2 really has two parts. One is the client, or the CLI, and the other is the GitOps Toolkit, which is the what we, I think, at some point had called an SDK. Really, it's the controllers, and it's the other controllers and packages that on which Flux controllers are built, and on which other people can build controllers for Flux. So it's a toolkit to build Flux components.
Almost like a library, right? Like if I wanted to create a plugin for Flux, I would just use the toolkit.
That's exactly.
In order
that's
to
exactly
interface
right.
into Flux.
Yeah, and it can certainly be improved. The ecosystem isn't gigantic out there of people building controllers for Flux yet, but there is a lot of interest in it, and people are doing it. So
yep. And so let me also add another element to that description, go even a little bit higher level. So what Flux One did was Flux One did several things all together. So it did things like it watched image registries, it watched Git repositories, it would do updates from the image registries out to the Git repositories. Then it would also, deliver over into Kubernetes. So it did all of these things. And as we as an industry became better versed at what GitOps was, we started to want to have a little bit more control over exactly what that GitOps flow looked like from Git over into the runtime environments and those types of things. And so Flux One had all of that kind of baked into it, had the GitOps flow, and that was something that I showed 2 weeks ago. The GitOps flow wasn't something that you were able to really change all that much. It was all kind of baked into Flux One. What we did in Flux Two was we said, we actually want to be able to control these GitOps flows. So we're going to break Flux One into various components. And then what the CLI does is first of all, it gives you a CLI, but then what we're also doing with the CLI is some of these commands like the Flux Bootstrap and so on, takes those components, because as soon as you break things into components, it gets harder. Like,
Yes.
how do you get started?
It does, yeah.
So what Flux Bootstrap does is it takes those components and it reassembles them for you in such a way that you don't have to take on that burden of understanding all these low-level primitives just to get started. Yep. So that's why we have the two columns, the Flux CLI, as well as the components. The components are a set of components. You can extend that set, do all sorts of cool things. And then the Flux CLI was part of what we have in Flux One, and it allows you to kind of put those things together and leverage those components. And Scott's going to show more of that today.
Yeah, the timetable links to it too. So
someone commented, Scott, that you could have ran Flux uninstall.
Yeah,
the cluster.
I hope that's someone from my team saying, "Oh, that guy should have really done Flux."
It probably is, because Yebayan. I don't know what that. But they're also talking about
Yebayan.
Yes. Well, either way, thank you very much. You're right.
Yes.
I appreciate that. But hey, at least you got to see kind of how it works. Otherwise, and
Hillary's
finish out.
Hillary's also asking if how you get the unicorns in your CLI. So
yes.
Yes. That's always a good question.
That's top secret. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. It's but real quick. Let me just answer this question first, because we gave a little bit of setup, but didn't really drive it home. So the most recent date was when Flux 2 reached feature parity with Flux 1 in February. We did, and because of that. There's a partial migration mode that had been announced in February for Flux One users that people are encouraged to migrate to the V1 beta, to the beta APIs if you only use those features. So, for example, if you do Flux One read-only mode and use the Helm operator, you're good to go. The image automation at that date, the image update automation controller APIs are in alpha only, and all the others had reached beta. So basically, if you're not using automated image update functionality from Flux One, then you should be good to go as
you're ready to go. It sounds like
last month. Yeah. Now the very next date is when we're going to say that Flux One has been superseded. So on that date, which is TBD. We don't know exactly when it's going to be, because it's like Flux is having improvements, really primarily being released every week, but this actually was a 2-week release and there were a lot of improvements. So but we're still very, very careful with versioning. So the Helm operator will also be archived then when Flux One is superseded, just because there is it's unrealistic to, at least for public use here, it's unrealistic to upgrade the Helm controller to current versions of Kubernetes.
I really like the fact that you use the word superseded instead of deprecated.
Yeah.
So I mean, kudos to whoever wrote that, because that's actually I think a better word for it than saying deprecated, right? So
it was me, but also it was a collaboration between other members of the team.
Okay,
a lot of conversations with Stefan, a lot of conversations with Michael and Hida and other members of the team to really make sure that we can commit to these things. Because even though we have some TBDs on dates, these alignments are commitments that we are making to users.
Nice.
So really, so basically, like what this really means is that only the CLI may get breaking changes from that point forward. And the primary reason is because it will need more testing. We don't want to have to go to, Flux 3 just to like change some really obvious and important CLI command. So the thing that really matters the most in the superseded period, which is the next one, is that all the Flux APIs are beta. So that means they're production ready. I've got little footnotes here for people that want to understand that. Okay, I described it before, but just please look at it. And then the very next one will be the public release, the GA, and I think that was the OP's question.
Yes.
Yep. So that means the CLI will commit to backwards compatibility. We'll then follow kubectl style +1 -1 minor version for the Semver, and then also similar for the API's controllers and the validation webhooks and stuff. And then there will be a period of time after that, which Flux 1 will be archived. So it goes through sort of the normal, well, not normal, but like pretty well understood stages of that process. Now, this has been documented, by the way. This isn't new. This has been documented all over in different places and has been mentioned a number of times, but it was never really put in one spot. So that's why it's here. And again, you can get to it either from the migration section under migration timetable, or get to it from the roadmap, and it's just linked right there. Hope that helps a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that very thorough explanation. Thank
you. Maybe too thorough, but in any case, I'm back here, and as you can see, if people were paying attention, I just deleted the stuff. So I didn't use Flux uninstall, which I could have. Thank you. But I actually just now pass this through. So what I can do now, though, is I can go back to what I did before, and just do my git clone and get in there. Oops.
There we go.
And then you can see, what it really did is this didn't really do anything super special, but it just gave me you can really set up your file system however you want. But the most important thing is when you do the Flux boot, it opens. Sorry, give me 1 second. Flux system. It puts, it gives an opinionated structure when it starts, at least where you tell it to go. And this is just represents a namespace, and all of these all these components are in the namespace. So if you wanted to take a look at, there's a single customization file, which by the way is not necessary, but it just kind of shows you what is installed. That these other two resources, you can not do this if you want. And then the GOTK sync, the GitOps Toolkit sync, will show you. This is really the representing the source that Cornelia mentioned, that it does the linking between what's in the cluster and what was just created in your source repository. This is the Flux source controller Git type source, and it shows where you're getting the information from. So that's the source. There's a customization object that the customized controller uses when looking at that source. And it uses the source ref. So it uses the Git repository type and Flux system, which we created. And what it does is it looks inside of the Flux boot directory. So anything in there that is a Kubernetes style manifest will get automatically applied to our system every 10 minutes. And you can specify that interval with the commands. You can also just modify this and edit it right here. So that just gives you a sense of how that works. And then if you wanted to see all the components that were installed, you can look inside of the components, and it shows you all of the cluster components for
Yeah,
Flux.
which are the things that you saw scrolling by when you did the Flux Bootstrap. You saw all these things getting created. Those are all the things that are in that third YAML file.
Yeah.
But there's something here that I want to emphasize, because what we've done here is we've installed Flux, but we are GitOpsing that installation. So
Yeah,
that's what Bootstrap does, is we're GitOpsing the GitOps agents. And so if you want to change the GitOps, if you want to upgrade the GitOps agents, you go, some of the components, you go and you edit the YAML file that has the components. Do you want to edit the GitOps flow that brings things from Git over into the cluster? All you need to do is change that in Git and commit it, and we will sync that into the cluster. So what we've done is it's got the auto update stuff. So now all auto updates are just commits into the Git repository.
Yeah, it's kind of, and someone says, someone chatted, Hillary chatted, GitOps inception almost, right? So it's
Exactly.
The bootstrapping process basically just creates the manifest, applies the manifest, and then Flux uses itself essentially just to keep those in sync, right? So if you wanted to make changes to the CRDs for whatever reason, right, or like you said, upgrades, you just make you don't have to do that outside of the GitOps framework, I guess I'll use it for lack of a better term. You could, or paradigm, right? You do it actually within the own paradigm itself.
Yeah, exactly. Within the own paradigm. And that's super key, because auto update stuff isn't that unusual. I mean, I have stuff auto updating on my Mac all the time, or on my phone.
Yeah, my phone's doing it right now. So yeah.
Right. But the mechanism to do the auto update isn't the same as the application that's being auto updated. What we're doing is the mechanism for doing the auto update is the thing that we're auto updating. It is totally Inception.
Solely
Super
Inception,
cool.
Yeah. So it is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using this to show as well what we just showed, that Flux, that source for the, that custom resource for that's defined by the source controller. You can use Flux commands to get it. You can also just use kubectl commands to get these, but the Flux commands are kind of nice because it can help you with discovery a bit. If you're not exactly sure what to look for in Kubernetes yet, it will tell you. So I'll tell you
that's
it
always
saves you that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you kind of have to hunt around for, like, you have all these manifests everywhere. They have to and you have to kind of piece it together in your head. Labels help a little bit, but it's nice to have like a point of entry. It's like, just give me everything related to X, right?
Yeah, and it saves you the trouble of doing a kubectl API resources. Oh yes. Yeah, the API resource is this, and now doing a kubectl get in that API resource name. Flux just says, okay, we'll do that stuff for you.
Yeah, exactly, and you can see that in the source, the source in Kubernetes believes that it has synced this SHA of the main branch.
Oh, okay.
And this is my just local. I'm not ahead in any way. I'm right there. So that just gives you a sense there. So what I was going to show you real quick, again, the tools themselves, like it's not really that critical for me to show you this, but I just wanted to give people a sense of how they could do all this stuff that they normally kind of usually have scripts to wire together and have waits and checks and so on. So I was just going to follow a similar pattern, just put it inside make a namespace for this, just like Flux system, where all the Flux system stuff is installed. Oops. And then I was going to use this Flux create. Oops, sorry. I'm just going to echo a very simple namespace object. You can also just write it out yourself, right? In fact, actually, I think I probably screwed that up. 1 second.
As a VI fan, I'm glad you're using VI. So
yeah, I don't know why I thought maybe I screwed up the tabbing. Okay,
looks good.
Yeah, so right, so it's just like a simple namespace object, right? And the reason that this matters is that Helm does have Helm does have a Helm 3 didn't initially have the namespace creation functionality, but then by popular demand it was added back with a command. This is just using this really just a similar thing. It's just using a namespace in order to install your Helm chart. So I'm just going to do that. In this case, we're just using the customized controllers to do that, because since it's in the Flux boot directory, when I push this up, it's going to create the namespace. In fact, I can even show you. But why don't I do that all together, just for fun? So I'm going to use these Flux create commands as well to create. I'm going to create the Helm repository source that I showed you. Oops, can you see this text? This better?
There we go. Oh,
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're seeing me paste it into the terminal anyway, and I wrote this stuff, so you can see it twice now. Easier. So yeah. So basically,
Yeah,
I'm going to create a Helm, a Flux Helm repository type source, and then for the source controller, and then I'm going to give that a URL, and I'm going to give it a namespace because I want to put it in there. I want to put it in that namespace that I'm just about to make, and I want to, for now, I'm going to export this as opposed to imperatively creating this. I want to export this into a file inside of that same namespace directory. So.
Oh, so you can create it via the CLI?
Yeah.
Or just have it exported and then do it with Git.
Yeah, I'll show you how to do it without the CLI too. I just wanted to show you that this gets you up and running quickly.
Instead of having to memorize YAML, I think this is
exactly, and this is what what it looks like. And I mean, truly, the components are quite under the source controller. There's the Git repository CRD we saw, the Helm repository CRD. It's fairly clear of how to. I mean, not fairly. It is very clear how to do this, but you don't need to. You can just use these commands to help you. But this is what it looks like. I gave it a 1 minute interval. I'm not really sure why I did that, but for Helm repositories, you probably want it at like a 10-minute interval or whatever. So whatever, or less. Once every hour. It really just depends on what you want. If a Helm repository updates very frequently, you might want to bump that up. If you don't deploy that frequently, maybe it doesn't matter to you. So you get to change that. But luckily, you can do that GitOps style at this point and do it all within these files. So then I'm also going to create a Helm release object in Flux 2.
And while you're cutting and pasting there, I want to clarify a little bit what's going on with that export command. So the export flag says, go ahead and stick that, pipe this to a file. So he had it sent to the file. If you don't have that export command, what it's going to do is it's going to take care of sending that over to Git for you.
Yeah, I was actually I was thinking about that automation, like how it gets back to us. So that's good to know that I can just create it from the CLI, but since it has the GitHub token, it can take those pieces and then I guess retroactively, I don't know how what it would be, but it would apply, the state of the cluster to the Git repo. So now they match.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that it's actually really important to make the point that when we do these creates, even if you didn't have the export in there, the command isn't what's applying things to Kubernetes. The command is sending things over to Git. And then the controllers that we already saw, the controller that's pulling things over from the boot directory is what would bring things over into Kubernetes.
Okay.
We
now
never,
it's clearer.
ever apply to Kubernetes directly.
Gotcha. Okay, so now that makes
command.
sense. So so now the workflow makes sense, right? So when you're doing the Flux CLI, you're actually doing stuff to Git, and the controller's job is what's actually applying it. So gotcha.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's except of course for Bootstrap, because how else do you do it, right? So
yeah, exactly.
But the nice thing about the Bootstrap is it can be rerun. So for example, if you already have your Git repository with all of your definitions in it, and your cluster dies, I can show you that at the end if you want. You just sort of spin it up again and run a Flux Bootstrap, and then you've got everything should be, if everything works properly, set up the way that you've declared in your new cluster.
Which is basically what you did at the beginning of this talk.
Yeah.
Because you had the Git repository already.
Yeah, I just sort of started from scratch too. But yeah, so this is the Helm release. Helm users will notice this. If you're not a Helm user, maybe just realize that this is metadata that relates to how that tool does package management in Kubernetes, or applies different packages of application manifests to Kubernetes. So I don't want to assume the audience here. But okay.
We actually have a question about Helm and the Helm controller. So
okay.
What does the interval do? Check for file changes or run Helm repo update every minute?
Yeah. So it really depends on what we're talking about. So you can have intervals for these various things. So when you're talking about the Helm, excuse me, the source, the Helm source, for a Helm repo, the source controller will use that interval to check if there were any updates to that Helm repo. So it will essentially, get the excuse me, get the Helm repository's index.yaml file and see if there are new versions for any of the metadata for the different charts that it describes. And the Helm release, the interval, this is actually the Helm controller now. Going back over here. Oops. This is now the, oh my goodness. Right.
One of those tabs.
Almost did it. Okay, here we go. So on the source, that's when the source controller says, oh, let me check sources. Let me check it again. Let me check it again. Let me check it again, etc. That's the interval for source controller, whether it's a Git type, whether it's a Helm repo type, whether it's a bucket type. The Helm controller interval says, oh, I'm gonna ask source controller if there were any changes to my to what I need for my Helm release. If there were any changes to the values that were sent, etc. And that, what's in the source controller is, give me just a second here. When I was showing you the Helm release object, geez, give me 1 second here. There we go. When I'm showing you the Helm release object, it's this. You may have a values section here that overrides Helm values. You may have values for a config map, from a config map or a secret, etc. All of that is described in these. This is the Helm repository CRD, but in the Helm release CRD definitions, there's a lot of information about that. It's kind of maybe a bit more than we can show right now if we're going to get through this stuff. But that is what that interval represents. So you may make different changes to your chart for deploying, like people do in Git CI ops often. Change a value, change something else, change a dependency, but rather than your push to your version control system being what triggers the change, I mean, we can also do that. This polls, and it says, it's just constantly looking and says, all right, you got to change. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to deliver that change. I hope that helped a little bit. Okay, so now if you check it out, you can see that I've added this thing for traffic. Let's just like show you what GitOps looks like now. So I'm going to do git add flux.
Well, you do wait, do git status first. Just to remind everyone the files that you added. So you added that directory that you just showed. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Lots of demos. Just for ease, we'll say git add period, git add or git add dot.
Yep.
I've done that before in demos. I'm just going to try to not do that in demos because in the real world scenario, please don't do that.
Yes. I've actually been. People tell me things when I do demos about the git add. Chris remembers that episode, but where it actually bit me. So, but yeah.
And if you're adding even a path like this, please do git diff stage just to see what you've got staged. Anyway, I don't need to do a git PSA here, but yeah, thanks, Cornelia. Yeah, so now I've got local stage changes. So I'm going to do git commit ingress controller. All right, I got my GPT stuff going. I'm just going to do a git push. Actually, let me do a git remote v just to make sure it's right. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Do a git push. And you're going to see, there we go. Let's see. First, I want to do a flux git. Well, git, oh my gosh, sorry. Git log, just to sort of get that full SHA. And then I want to do once again, a flux git source git, and it's going to show, hopefully, oh, no, it hasn't reconciled yet. Oh, because I think I have it on every 10 minutes. So I'm actually going to do a flux reconcile command, which is pretty much just poking the bear And it's doing the same thing that this would do and say, okay, instead of 10 minutes from now, go ahead and, oops, I'm sorry. What did I, oh, flux reconcile source, yeah. Oh my goodness, what is the command? Someone don't, flux reconcile source, is it, oh right, git, and then.
Oh. And then the name, I guess.
Wow, clearly I am, I think it's flux system.
Yep, I think so. There you go.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so now if I do flux git source git, it's going to now it's going to show me the revision that I'm actually on. And now let's take a look at what did we do? We added traffic namespace. So I'm just going to do a k get ns. It added the traffic namespace. Well, let me do a Helm ls all. Oh, I didn't add my Helm stuff. Let me do a flux get hr. Oh, did I not do this right? I'm so sorry. Let me see. This will be where observability helps.
There you go.
So flux traffic. I've got a Helm Helm.
Did you set the namespace? Yeah. What namespace did all that go into?
Yeah,
okay.
I did -a, so it should be all namespaces. Let's see. So
Flux get HR is just looking in the Flux namespace. It's not finding the Helm release object in there because I think you put the Helm release object in the traffic namespace. You need a -n, I think, on the Flux get HR. I think. There it is.
Oh yeah, you were correct. Thank you. So reconciliation in progress. That's great. So I can, if I want, this is kind of cool. So now I can do, if you want to see like, oh great, so there's now a traffic Helm release. I can do a k describe, just like you would. All right, Kubernetes administrators or human operators, perk your ears up. So it's just this. Okay, come on. Do I have auto?
You need the namespace again.
Thank you. Wow. Thanks. Right. So you're starting to get the basic observability here as messages on the Flux custom resource. If I probably do this again, I'm going to. It's just not ready. So I'm just going to take a moment. Oops. Just going to take a moment. In any case, we can see it. We can see it happening. We can see it happening.
Yeah, the controller is currently applying the.
Yeah, I could do a.
So it actually the controller maintains the Helm, like it's not doing a Helm template, right, and piping that to apply. It's actually using the Helm.
Correct. Yeah, it's not using Helm template. It's using Helm. So I'm gonna get out of this because I think you know what it looks like, and we can look at it in a bit. I want to show you real quick how you don't actually need to use these commands to do this. Do we still have a moment? We don't have that much time. But
yeah, it's you guys have we don't have a hard stop, so
Yeah,
okay. I still want to respect people's time. So basically, as opposed to so we use the bootstrap commands to create, or sorry, not the bootstrap commands. We use the flux create commands to create these resources, right? Now, I just like added a normal, just echo for this. And that's the same for any other Kubernetes resource, exactly the same as these. The flux create commands were just helpers. So I can just copy that into a new directory called cert manager, and I can do a literal find and replace. And let's go crazy.
Oh, look at you.
Okay, so the namespace is now cert manager. Say we're going to install cert manager in the cert manager namespace. Unsurprisingly, the Helm repo is not going to be correct here. So let's just go ahead to JetStack, or actually, let's go to Artifact Hub, because that's where people should be looking for packages. The CNCF Artifact Hub. So go to cert manager, check out the installation. Okay, so I'm actually just going to keep it cert manager for now. If I wanted to, I could call it JetStack. Actually, why don't I do it? I'll keep it cert manager for now for fun. If we had more JetStack stuff, we could name this JetStack. We could really do it however we want. And then inside of the Helm release, I'm going to change the version to 1.3.0. And there we go. So ultimately, I've got everything set up. I don't really have to do anything special. I really just want to see this. Okay.
Oh, they're asking if you can increase the font size and the VS Code as well.
Oh, damn it. Yes, I can.
There we go. That's right.
Okay, so hopefully you got what I was showing you is that these are just the files that I showed you in VI before. And all I was doing is copying and pasting, and I changed the, sorry about the font size, folks, and then I changed the URL to be the actual URL of where the JetStack Helm repo is for Cert Manager.
Yeah, so I guess essentially what you're doing is you copy the traffic one and you changed it, and then you're just going to apply those same manifests.
Yeah, it's just
this time you're installing Cert Manager.
Exactly, it's just kind of an easy way to do it. You can also just go to the spec inside of the documentation too, and go to the Helm controller, both the source controller Helm repository CRD and the Helm controller Helm release CRD. That's pretty much all I just did. You don't actually have to use these commands at all. They're helper commands. So anyways, we have that, and I just got the right version. Note that I'm specifying a pinned version. You can create version ranges, semver ranges, as well. So that is interesting. So in the meantime, the Helm chart had installed. Oh, it didn't install. Something failed. I am actually very curious to see what failed. Reconciliation failed. Why? Oh, sorry, I'm gonna bump down the the font.
It's waiting for something. Timeout, waiting for resources.
Waiting for the condition. I do not know why it's waiting for a condition, what condition it would be waiting for. But I think with the time we have right now, I'm not going to look at that. I had just done this, and it's fine. It's fine. Trust me, it's fine. So now what I'm going to do, just to show you this part of it, is I'm going to do a git add flux boot cert manager. Oops. For example, you could name only it if you want to, right? So, and then I'm going to do a git commit cert manager go, and then I'm going to git push. Oops. I'm going to actually push it. And then
you got to start making aliases for all your typos, so that way your work becomes
because
that's what I do. I just make aliases for that.
Exactly. Okay, so then again, just to show you, it's like too instant. I should really have multiple windows open with watches like Cornelia was doing before. But if I do a git log and one and get that SHA, and then just do a flux git source git, and you see where we're at. It's not correct because it's on an interval, and so because in order to, instead of just talking for a few minutes while this reconciles, I'm going to trigger that. So it's as if the time period had elapsed. I'm going to do a flux reconcile source for the name of my source, and now it should match, and it does. Now let's do a kubectl, saying that oops. Get namespaces. Looks like cert manager's there. Just for fun, I'm going to do a Helm. And cert manager installed quite fast. I'm not really sure what I did with traffic. I probably screwed something up in some little typo somewhere. But anyway, you can see how that worked out pretty quickly, and it just does what it needed to do. So what you would do at this point, I was going to show, all right, now you got your file structure, and now you're going to go ahead and do the same thing for the example app. And I was just going to add pod info as the example and add an ingress, you know what I mean? An ingress statement to the chart for pod info, and then just like port forward traffic because I'm on kind locally. And you can see it running, but I don't think I need to show you all that. I'm not really trying to demo what ingress looks like. I hope this gave you a sense of how you can really interact with, or basically how the Flux components work in general, how you can set up your repo. It can be set up all differently. I had mentioned before, there's no gold standard of how file structures can be set up. You can have the infrastructure, for example, in one Git repository, and you can have your applications in another. You can separate them by team. You can separate them by namespace, of course, to match your organization rules and RBAC in your cluster. I'm just doing a fairly simple one right now that just puts it all together.
So Waleed's asking a question. So I just need one Flux deployment for several namespaces and a single repo with directories for each namespace?
The nod yes.
You don't have to do it like that, but yeah, that is correct. Yeah, when you say one Flux deployment, do you mean
like a one Flux operator managing multiple different namespaces?
Yeah, one Flux controller or one source control. Ultimately, one set of Flux components is the optimal way. You can scale it, of course, but it really just follows. Excuse me. Sorry. It really is built on top of what Kubernetes is using already for controller runtime. It's like SIG controller runtime.
Yeah, and so let me add to that. So I don't know whether the person who asked the question was familiar with Flux One, but Flux One was, if you will, okay. Flux One was single tenant, if you will. It depends on how you define tenant, but what you did with Flux One is anytime you had a different repository, you needed to have a new Flux controller. So there was a one-to-one mapping between those. And so this is a common question that we get, which is, hey, the more workloads and the more different repositories I have, the more Flux controllers. Now the Flux controller is really lightweight, so it actually wasn't a big resource hog or anything like that. But what's happening now with Flux 2 is that it's not that there's one controller anymore. Remember, we've broken down what used to be in one controller into a set of controllers, but you don't need a separate source controller for each one of these. You have one source controller. You're going to have separate source objects per repository. So CRs, you'll have separate source CRs, source Git repository CRs or Helm repository CRs. That's what you saw Scott doing just now with separate CRs for the different Helm repositories or the different Helm releases. But there's only a single, each of the controller types, there's only a single one in their multi-tenant.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah,
and we're getting thumbs up.
Got multiple.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No. I said what Shari said. He got it now. So cool.
Okay, good. Yeah, and to be clear, you may have one defined source per repository or per source type, even if it's not a Git repository, it's one of the other types. But you can have multiple customized objects that then are responsible for applying manifests within a specific path that's specified. You can have multiple of those per repo, depending on what you want those rules to be. You may want them to be on different time intervals. You may want them to have different, etc.
So there was a question. I'm trying to find the exact question, and I can't find it, but I remember the spirit of it is how Helm updates work with Flux, meaning like if there's like a there's an upgrade, like
if the chart gets updated, does it pull
the chart
it down
gets updated. Like how do how does the update work?
Yeah. So sorry, just to be clear, do you mean the Helm? Do you mean the Helm upgrade command, or do you mean updates to a chart in a read.
Updates to a chart. Well,
yeah, update both essentially, but yeah, the initial question about the update to the chart, but then the actual Helm update command as well.
Got it. Yeah. So if you maybe I should share my screen again. Actually, maybe I don't have to, but if you remember, if you want me to, I will. But if you remember, because I pinned a specific version of that chart, even if new chart versions are pushed to that Helm repository, it won't do anything. Charts are intended. Helm charts are supposed to be idempotent, and so if you make a change to your chart and don't bump the version, tough luck. You really should, because otherwise you're really screwing your own. You are really not following best practices at that point, or whoever would be doing this, right? Would be making a mistake at that point and not following best practices. So definitely bump your chart versions when you want your changes to be made to each chart, even if it's a README change. That's a recommendation.
Yep. Now, if in the manifest you had put a semver range, and somebody bumped it and the semver range allowed you to have anything you wanted in the patch part of the semver, the third part of the semver, then what?
That's correct. Then it would do that. So if the source controller was on an interval to check every half hour or 10 minutes or whatever, or 1 minute, whatever you want, and it sees a new version that matches the semver range rules that you've set out, then it would say, okay, cool. I'm going to go grab that. We have different techniques for pinning those, and I would really suggest people that are really interested in exact disaster recovery to pin versions and to look at the image automation update functionality that's being worked on from alpha, hopefully getting to beta in not too distant future, very soon, for other aspects of Flux, which allow you to set different policies, and then the image update automator will write back to your Git and actually pin versions based on annotations that you want to set. You can also do that kind of thing like this without using the image update automation controller, using CI. You can, for example, I would say you could write your own Flux controller to do this if you wanted to, but that's kind of what the image update automator is supposed to do. But one could, for example, do that and pull, say you weren't doing a Helm repository, but you were looking at something else, or it was a Helm repository, et cetera. And you could have that pinned back to Git if you wanted to. So semver ranges are really good. Basically, if your policy doesn't need you to be at an exact specific point, if you want to be at a specific point and don't have automation to help you set up that pinning, then you want to just keep it pinned.
We showed the image update automation last week or 2 weeks ago on the last episode. That's exactly what we showed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's really more of I'm just mentioning this in the same breath because the concept is similar. If it's very imperative that you have a specific version, which it often is, then you want to use whatever tools are available to make sure that you are pinned. That's it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool.
I don't think there's
any more questions. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you guys wanted to touch on before we wrap up here.
People expect a blog post about how you set up your terminal is what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, everyone's loving your terminal. There's they need to
seriously,
upgrade
Scott.
their terminal. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would actually speak to it. It's a project whose name I can't remember at the moment because I am jet lagged really bad.
No one knows, but Scott took a red eye just to be on the show. So
thank you for doing that.
He's flying.
Yeah,
somebody's flying.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I know. I wore a mask. I was very careful. But yes, it was a risk, but it was one well worth the cost. And I'm on an hour and a half of sleep, but hopefully that didn't hamper me too badly. I didn't use Flux
Did
uninstall,
great,
but apart from that, pretty
But
good.
apart from that, that's right. Nice. So just real quick, like we mentioned last time, we are putting on a KubeCon Day Zero event. The GitOps working group is putting on a GitOps Con. CFPs are still open, right? I'll put it in the chat. I'll paste it in here for all those.
Thank you. I was trying to grab it.
Yeah, I made a bit.ly for it, so it's easy for you to remember. I put in the chat there. Please, if you have any ideas, if you want to share some use cases that you guys had or have done, we're interested in users and end user stories, right? Anything you want to share with the broader group. CFP still open till next week. Next Friday closes, and we'll be contacting those that are selected. So Day Zero event doesn't cost anything, right? If you're going to KubeCon, you might as well check that box, right, to get registered for GitOps Con.
And on behalf of the GitOps Con programming committee, Christian and I, don't be part of the hockey stick. Get your submissions in sooner rather than later. Help us out.
The I can review them, the better. I feel like,
We want to. I'm guilty of submitting CFPs at the very last moment, but now I'm on the other end, and I'm like, come on, so now maybe I'll start submitting my CFPs earlier now that I'm on the other side, waiting for them.
Yeah, if you could.
And it's probably worth noting that there are other events. We don't probably have a lot of time to get into. I think we mentioned them the last round, but there's GitOps Days. There's the GitOps Summit at CDCon. This is the year of a lot of hopefully not the only year, but a year where a lot of this is happening. So get your CFPs everywhere, not just to this.
Right,
And really welcome cross-pollination and collaboration between these different communities. So hopefully,
definitely,
in any way, competing communities. I mean, maybe we can make each event can try to be the best it can, but hopefully we can intersect more, so folks from CDCon can be involved in GitOpsCon and vice versa and so on. So we're hoping to really get a lot of good synergy here.
That's awesome.
Yep, definitely, yeah. It's a community, and we even cross-pollinate communities as well. So come share wherever you can. And this is the year of GitOps, I guess, right? We can say, since all these are popping up. So the year of the Linux laptop wasn't here, but maybe the year of the GitOps is. So
definitely year of the GitOps, finally. Yeah. All right.
All right. Nice. Anything else you want to share, or Chris, you ready to?
I mean, I don't see any other questions. Stop. But there's no other questions. Looks like Waleed might be sharing something with us, so that'll be great. There's nothing left on the air today, folks. So thank you for joining. Thank you, Cornelia. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Christian. Thank you to the audience, and we look forward to seeing y'all soon.
Thanks for having us. It's super fun.
Yep. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.